Hello, everyone. I hope everyone can hear me. Welcome to the first phase of NextStep 360, organized by the Professional Development Avenue of the RACUOP, University of Peradeniya. Today, we'll be having a virtual panel discussion with 3 panelists who will be joining us from the USA. Before we begin, I'd like to thank our sponsor for the day, as well as the whole project as a whole, Imperial College of Business Studies. We thank them a lot for sponsoring this event and making this possible. Before we begin, I'd also like to introduce our speakers for the day. We have Saadia Jameel joining from University of Johns Hopkins University. We have Akila joining from the University of Maryland. And we also have Sasanka joining from University of Central Michigan. Hello, everyone. It's really good to have you all here. We know that you all are very busy people. So we're really glad that you could allocate some time, some of your valuable time for us today. To give the participants a rough idea about how today's session will flow, during the first hour or so, we'll be having an active panel discussion where we will be discussing some of the frequently asked questions that you may have regarding academia and studying abroad. And at the latter part of the session, about 20 minutes or 15 minutes, we will give you all the chance to ask questions from the panelists. It could be general questions or it could be questions directed to a certain panelist. That's also fine. So what you need to do is, as the session progresses, just drop your questions down in the chat. And at the end of the session, we will go through each of them. All right. I hope the panelists can unmute themselves so we can begin. All right, really good to see everyone here. It's early morning for you, I'm assuming. We are just ending the day. Okay, so thankfully all our 3 panelists are joining from the same time zone this time, which makes things much more convenient. Let's start off with some simple questions, and as we progress, we'll dive into more deeper topics. So first of all, we'll get started with Saadia. Saadia, the question that I have for you is, what were the biggest cultural differences that you experienced when you moved abroad, and how did you adapt to them?
So I'd first like to thank you all for having me and I think the other 2 here, and thanks to everyone who has joined. The question was on cultural differences. I hope you can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you just fine.
Yeah. So I think for me, it was the fact that the students here really actively ask questions from lecturers. And by the time they leave the room, I feel like everyone makes sure that they've really understood what was taught. Whereas I think not just me, I'm not alone when I say this, but most of us have the mentality of, I'll somehow figure this out at home. And that could take many hours, waste a lot of your time. And I just couldn't afford to waste that much time here, because here for me, exams, we don't have a dead week or a dead day even. The day the course ends, the following day I take the final exam. And so figuring out at home is not something I was able to do. So I had to somehow step out of, I'd say, my comfort zone and ask whatever it is the question that I had to ask. I think one thing that you need to know and realize is that people don't really care much about you as you think they do. No one's judging you, and no one's going to call you stupid for asking a question that maybe they know the answer to. Because when professors answer whatever the question you have, they make sure to make it a discussion and cover a lot of points around it. And you learn so much more that way. And yeah, in that regard, in classroom, the biggest cultural shock for me was that I didn't want to feel left out, and also wanted to learn as much as I could. And to do that, I had to actively participate in discussion, which I hadn't done before. So I'd say it was that for me. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Saadia. Also, I should mention that if the other panelists also want to add on to what Saadia said, they are more than welcome to go ahead.
Actually, yeah. Okay, first of all, thank you all for having me. So adding on to what Saadia said, so that was one of the key things I noticed. So here in Maryland, I'm TAing for a course, and I see a significant difference in students in how they interact and how they come up with questions and try to clarify their doubts before they leave a discussion or TA office hour, which is not typically seen in a Sri Lankan university environments, which was one thing. And if we talk about in general for culture shocks, well, there's a lot because you are interacting with a lot of people of different backgrounds and different orientations. Yeah, it was sort of an eye-opening experience of like, even as Sri Lankans, we have our own sort of um, beliefs, and it was such an eye-opening experience in the sense that how we get together with other people and how we interact with them changes over time because we come with a certain background of beliefs, and with time I think it keeps on getting better and better, and you end up having friends of all these different backgrounds, which makes it I guess colorful, I would say. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, so the next question I have is for Akila.
Okay.
Akila, how did you manage your finances during the first few months, especially with regards to budgets and saving? So to all the panelists that are present here today, all the three panelists who are here, they are people who moved abroad 3-4 months ago, so quite recently. So the information that you're getting through them is very much recent and very much up to date. Yes, go ahead, Akila.
Yeah. So to answer that question, well, so as you said, it's been like 3 to 4 months since we've been here, and we are still trying to figure it out. I don't know about the other panelists. I am. So right after I came here, it was a bit of a getting used to on how to manage your finances because you don't necessarily know how much things should be and how much you should be paying for stuff. But with time, I think I managed to sort of budget myself well. And with the stipend I receive, I get to save a bit as well. And it has been a learning process. So for an example, like I used to do this internship in Singapore, but their food was not an issue for me because for one thing, I didn't know how to cook. And Singapore food is really cheap if you're eating out. But here it's very expensive to eat out. So I had to learn to cook. Now I cook almost like twice a week or something. Yeah, so a lot of learning to do. I think that involves in budgeting as well, right? Learning skills and trying to minimize your spending. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Since you're in a completely new country and the setting is very much different, so it's all a learning curve, I believe, since there's a lot to learn and you learn it as you progress. So speaking of learning, my next question is directed towards Sasanka. How did you navigate the language barriers, both in academics as well as real life? Because we know in Sri Lanka, you can speak the major three languages and someone will almost always get what you're saying, but that's not really the situation in USA. We have a lot of multilingual people here and that you have to interact with, not even during the university itself, but also outside as well. So what was your experience in it?
Yeah, hi guys. Am I audible?
Yeah, we can
Yeah,
hear you.
yeah. So first of all, thank you all for having me today. And to answer the question about the language barriers, uh, I think like even though if you speak good English, like the American accent and the speed at which they speak, it might be a bit of a challenge to kind of face at the beginning because the accent it's kind of different. Like everybody has an accent, right? But here, like I think it would be really helpful, like if you are kind of exposed to that kind of language before you come here. Like something I would suggest is like if you are watching English movies or documentaries, like it would greatly help for you to kind of help the accent and to get along with the speed. And even the professors, like they might speak very fast, and at times like that, like you might have to talk with them even after the lecture and ask for clarification and stuff. And other than that, if you are in the grocery stores, when you are going to the bank and other things, like they tend to speak very fast. And like as a non-native speaker, like it's always fine if you can always tell them, like if I'm speaking over the phone, like I'm sorry, I'm not a native speaker, like could you please slow down a bit. Like I have done it several times. Like it's really, it's fine, it's nothing embarrassing at the beginning. So that's something I would say about navigating the language. Like it's always good to ask for help and ask them to slow down if you are feeling like stuck. Like, yeah.
All right. Okay, thank you. So what I gathered from that is exposure while you're living in Sri Lanka can be very helpful, because going there and then learning everything from scratch can be a little bit more difficult, and will be more helpful if you are already exposed to the language while you are here in Sri Lanka. All right, so circling back to Saadia again. Saadia, did you face any academic challenges due to the differences in the education system? And if so, how did you handle them? Because you had experience dealing with not only the engineering faculty, other faculties as well, and you know how things work around here. So if there were any differences, how did you adapt to it?
Yeah. For me, everything was a change because my bachelor's was in computer engineering, but here I'm studying biomedical engineering, and there is a significant lag in my knowledge with regards to anything medicine or biology. And so what I am doing now in my first semester is taking medical school courses with first-year medical students. And they don't run on a semester-based system like we do in Sri Lanka, where you take a few courses in parallel and then you sit for a mid-exam and you'll have your end exam. And more often than not, before your end exam, you get a week off to study. Whereas here, the engineering school, yes, that's how it happens there. But with the medical school, it's you take only one course at a time, but the course lasts only a maximum of 10 days. And on the 11th day, you take the exam, which is the final exam, and it's pass or fail. And pass is 75 and above. So it's either A or fail. And that was so difficult for me because, as I think Sasanka mentioned, sometimes when they speak English, it stops sounding like English at one point. And so you might have to like jot things down and ask them questions with regards to anything that they've spoken of. So yeah, the whole exam system and how courses work was a challenge for me. But I'm down to my last course, and so that's cool. But I think with moving abroad itself is a huge adjustment. And on top of that, having to adjust to a whole new education system is not easy. But I don't think anyone really fails. And if there are many people who did it before us, we are doing it. And I'm pretty sure anybody who's planning to study abroad can make it work. It's just that it's not easy. I hope I'm not scaring you, but it's definitely doable. But yeah.
Okay, yeah. So it does take a little bit of effort, I'd say more than what you're doing in Sri Lanka, I'm assuming. I'm also keen to know about the other two participants, other two panelists as well. Do you all share similar experiences, or are there any difference in your educational structures?
I kind of face a similar situation. Like I think it's really important that you understand the grading system here. Like more than one final exam at the end, what most of us will be having is like continuous assessments. Like with the content of the courses, it's like not practical to do continuous assessments, the quizzes, assignment stuff going on. It's kind of helpful, like when you are considering about the content, like rather than having one final exam at the end. So like they would really specify it at the beginning of each course, and each course actually differs how they assess their students. So yeah.
All right, thank you. Okay, so another common question that I believe our audience has is, how do we make friends? How do we network? Because we have a diverse collection of people who are joining from different countries. So my next question towards Akila will be, can you share some tips on building social network and making friends in a new country?
Yeah, so as I said before, like there's a lot of different types of people from different backgrounds. Now, the good thing about it is it's sort of easier to find your niche or like people who have similar interests as you. So there are a lot of clubs or a lot of gatherings on different things. Like, for instance, we have like a coffee hour for people who enjoy coffee, right? So that I think it's a US thing, I don't know, but they have a thing for everything. So you will find a lot of events, a lot of like if you're, it all depends on your interests. And I believe finding people based on interest is a good thing because that brings you together and it's easier to make have a connection with people in that way. But in a sense of like academia, more often than not, if you are working in a lab, it's usually people who work on sort of common things. And specifically, if you're in a lab that's doing sort of different things, but still they base upon the common knowledge, you would always discuss with other people on your research directions, on your research questions, because there's always going to be people people that you can learn from. Because a special thing in PhD is everyone is doing their own thing and everyone has their own sort of specific knowledge, right? So if you are working on a problem that requires some very specific knowledge that another person knows, you will most like it, you're better off asking them for it, asking for advice, and uh, getting it done. So yeah, in the context of academia, it's like talking to people, sharing knowledge brings you together. But in a sense of just general having friends, it's mostly based on common interests. And yeah.
Okay, I mean, I'm certain that you have a variety of people to choose from, so definitely you're not going to be alone in the country. Sasanka, do you have anything to add on to that?
Yeah, I can add something to that. So I think as a newcomer, like as someone new, like it's important that you initiate friendship. I think like so like smiling, greeting people, and engaging in small talk. Like it's really normal here and it's appreciated here. So as a newcomer, I think if you want to make friends, it's important that you initiate conversations with your lab mates, the people in neighboring labs, and even while you are waiting for the bus, like engaging, interacting with people, you can do that a lot because it's really normal here. Like that's something I find really helpful in finding new friends. And in addition, you have a lot of student societies, organizations. I think that every university would have them. So joining those clubs, organizations, that would really help to make friends as well. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Sasanka. Okay, I'd like to go back to Saadia. Saadia, can you tell us what type of support systems did you find helpful as an international student? So here we are talking regards like emotional and external support systems, because it's surely not easy being out there. You feel like you're alone. You just left your whole home back where you in Sri Lanka. So how did you deal with that sort of thing in an emotional level, and what support systems did you have?
Yeah. Like the other two mentioned, I think you need to make sure that you make at least a few friends. It's easier here because everyone's new to the program, maybe not to the country or the university, but to your program, yes, everyone's new. It's not like joining school in, grade 8 where people have already made their friends and it's hard to get into a group. It doesn't happen here, given that you talk and you put yourself out there. But apart from friends, I think it's important to maybe connect with your community. There's a large Sri Lankan community here that, they organize a lot of events, and I've been to a few. It helps a lot. And also something maybe yeah, so emotionally, it's friends and the community here, and also definitely keeping in touch with your family back home. Apart from that, something that I'd like to highlight is that you need to always remember that here you will and always be an international student unless you get PR or you get a passport of this country. You need to remember that you're always an international student, and there are certain requirements that you have to fulfill to maintain your status as a student in this country. And that has a lot to do with the courses that you take and the amount of credits that you are enrolled in for a semester. What I'm trying to get at is in Sri Lanka, it's easy for you to take a certain number of technical electives, maybe drop a course if you think it's not going your way. But here, you need to make sure that you always have the minimum credit requirement satisfied. And it's fine to ask your friends about this, but there is in every university what they call the OIS, the Office of International Services. And they are just a call away, not even an email. You can call them during work hours and ask them any question you have with regards to dropping courses and all of that. And even maybe emotional support, they'd be able to help you with that as well. But what I want to highlight is that just remember that you have to be careful. And when things go wrong, it's a bit too late. So it's always good to take precaution and make use of all these services that they make available to you, calling people. Because I mean, if you don't call them, they're probably not getting their job done that day, right? So I think it's good that you make use of all these and also know that there are these services made available to you. So I'd say that, yeah.
Okay. Yes, Saadia. Okay, that is really helpful to know. Yeah, really good tip. Thank you so much. All right, so now next up, I have a question for Akila, and this question is very, very important, and I'm sure most of the people here who are present here today simply joined the meeting solely because of this question. That is a high GPA enough to secure a scholarship? And or what else should the students focus on applying? Because most of the people here today are undergraduates. We have a few school students here as well, but statistically, we have more undergraduates. So what is your opinion on that question?
Okay. The simplest answer is, well, a high GPA definitely helps. But I have seen cases in both ends. So I have seen people with a 4.0 and has done everything well and secured a scholarship here. But then I also met people like my friend here who got a 3.4, but he's still in the same program, right? So when it comes to selection of PhD students, universities they try to look at multiple angles. They try to evaluate a person in multiple degrees, if that makes any sense. So it's not just the GPA, but also things that you do along the way in your undergrad. So things like projects or research that you have done, if there are noticeable, impactful journal papers you have published, which definitely helps. Yeah, it's definitely doable, but if you have a lower GPA, you will have to do some extra work. So the person I mentioned with the 3.4, he did some research during his undergrad, but then he stayed back after graduating, doing some research in Sri Lanka, and then he applied to the PhD. So yeah, it's not a straightforward answer if that's what you're looking for. Try to maintain a high GPA, obviously. That's like a given. It will make your life so much easier. So I have a 3.8, but still I had to do a lot to get the PhD. Question. So I don't know about the other two finalists. I'm pretty sure they have 4.0 maybe. But yeah, it definitely.
There's something, I mean, I don't have to mention what GPA I
Yeah.
have, but there's something that I would like to say or add is that when you apply to universities abroad, you have an application and you have your CV. And on both, you talk about yourself. And maybe you make statements like, I'm hardworking, I can multitask, I can overcome challenges, and all of that. But does that no matter how convincing you make it sound, just think to yourself if that would convince someone who doesn't know you from Adam. I mean, the only way you will be able to supplement what you say about yourself is through whatever you've achieved. And if you say you're hardworking, I'm pretty sure high GPA probably speaks a lot about the hard work that you put into whatever you're doing with regards to academics. And if you claim that you are good at multitasking, then maybe like Akila said, in addition to your GPA, you probably have done several other projects and maybe taken part in sport or other extra activities. So does a high GPA help? Yes. Is only a high GPA enough? I'm not sure. But just think of all of this as ways in which you support whatever the statement you make about yourself in your application and also in your CV. Yeah.
Okay, so fundamentally, like collecting proofs that you need to showcase before applying to your PhD. Sasanka, do you have anything to add on to that? I feel like you have a lot to say.
And add something to Saadia and Akila, like I completely agree with them. Like GPA, it kind of shows your academic consistency and your discipline, like. But like many universities, they use it as a minimum filter. And once you pass that cutoff, like they look at many other things as well. And especially in the fields of biology, I would say that they would look at your research background and your lab experience and how good you are a match to the lab that you are joining in. So that's another thing that they would really look for. And as Sadia mentioned, that you can include many achievements like many extracurricular activities in your CV. Like it would definitely kind of help, like in your multitasking and your communication abilities. And a place that you can really showcase your abilities is the interview, like with your communication, with your personality, and with your attitudes. Like that's a place, like CV is just a paper, right, that to someone who is in the other side of the world, it's just some wording. But in the interview, that's the place that where you can really showcase your talents and your abilities. Yeah.
If I may add to it, so for my like when I got selected, I did not have interview, so they solely based everything I've done looking at the things I've submitted to them. So there are instances in both ways that can go both ways, because you can like some I mean, it's definitely pro to have good interpersonal skills and all this, but then there are times where you don't get an interview, so you don't have a chance to showcase or talk about the things you've done. So in that case, it's all in the writing, it's all what you submit to them. So this will be your personal statement, your CV, and sometimes a research statement, and that's what they look at and try to evaluate you whether you fit into their lab, their research groups, and so on.
Okay. Since we're on the topic of the processes that one has to follow to get into the country, I'd like to direct this question to Sasanka. So can I please know, how was your visa process? Did you face any difficulties throughout?
About the visa, I would say it was not very difficult. The most kind of the difficult part is securing a scholarship. So once you have that with you, and once you have the offer letter or the I-20, the visa process, I think you would be able to definitely figure things out. So once you receive the I-20, like then you will have to pay that a fee called service fee to the US Embassy, and then you will have to kind of reserve a date for your appointment, visa appointment, and you will have to fill an online form called DS-160. So it's kind of a long form and it requires careful attention. Like once you fill out that form, pay your fees, and then you will be all set with your documents. Once you're all set with your documents, what you have to do is you have to prepare for the interview. Like it's not a big deal actually, like it's a very brief interview. Like it has been so far like that, a very brief interview. So the visa process, I would say you need to get all your documents ready, the essential documents. So the passport and the official, your transcript, and what else? The offer letters and stuff. So you have to get them ready, and then on the interview date, as I mentioned, it's a very brief interview. They would ask just a few general questions like why this university, why did you select this program, and how you get your funding and stuff. So the visa process, I think it's manageable. You can figure it out by yourself once you have your offer letter and your I-20. And something I would like to suggest for people who are applying and who are looking forward to apply is like once you fill out your DS 160, like they will be screening your social media for sure. So if you're planning to apply, it's really important that you maintain some kind of like professionalism in your social media accounts. Like it's fine, you can share some memes and funny stuff, but make sure that you don't go to the extreme post that even as a joke you should not be posting them, and especially like you should not be criticizing the current US government for sure. Like you have to think about this.
Political stance could be a sensitive topic.
Yeah, so like that you have to maintain your social media because they will be screening your stuff. So have your social media like uh, as a decent place, and once you fill out the form and once you face the interview, it will be like kind of a smooth process. Like you won't have to worry about the visa process much. Yeah.
Okay. So what I gathered from this is like posting a picture of your dog is fine, but posting information about President Trump is not fine. Okay. All
Maybe
right.
even saying the name is probably not fine.
Okay, I should have probably looked at. I might be getting tracked at the moment. We don't know.
Not you, us in the call. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry to put your lives in danger. All right. So the next question, it will be an open-ended question. Anyone is free to answer this. That is, how do you manage your studies alongside part-time work and internships? So if there's anyone here who's doing part-time work, they're more than welcome to answer it.
I mean, I was quite lucky. I'm on a full scholar, so I don't have to TA or RA. But I think as an international student, you need to know if you can actually work part-time, because I think if you are affiliated with a university, you really can't work outside the university unless you work as a teaching assistant or a research assistant. That's all that I have to say.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I have to do a TA. So I mean that's what supports my PhD. So how do I find time? Okay, so currently in my semester, the current semester, I'm doing 2 courses, which is like I have course like lectures 2 days a week, and then I have one day that's fully allocated for my teaching assistantship, which means I have 2 hours of discussions with the students, and then 2 hours of office hours, and then also assignment marking, and then exam grading, all that stuff included. So on paper, it says 20 hours, but it might be more than that, depending on how many students you have in your course. But then, yeah, I think you have to keep a schedule if you can, which would definitely help. Section out your days. So for me, it's like Thursday and Friday, that's fully dedicated to my coursework. Then Wednesday, it's fully for my teaching assistantship, like TAing. Monday and Friday, I would do research. So I'm currently also doing research, and that's usually dedicated to that. weekends, I don't know. I highly recommend to people like actually like have at least one day that you have for yourself, because it can be really tiring and you get caught up in things. You lost track of time and just get overloaded with work, which is very common when it comes to PhD. But yeah, keep a weekends usually free, but obviously work creeps in. Because in my case, because I'm in electrical and electronics engineering, which is known for specifically our department and our university is known for having a lot of assignments and a lot of a lot of work in
Exams are
the course.
hard, right?
Exams are really hard, yes, but on top of it, the assignments are also hard, like in specific courses that you select. And like I have one course that gives out open-ended questions to answer as assignments weekly. Yeah, so you would try. So one course would take up a lot of time, like one doing that one assignment, but still you have to find time for yourself. That's like a major point. Uh, but yeah, for like undergrads, just you would know how much you can handle. That's the only person who knows you is yourself. So you would have to know whether you have the ability to balance out all these things, which is very important. Um, yeah, so like scheduling helps, and okay, yeah, scheduling to the best of your abilities helps. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So with regards to TA, I mean, I'm sure you have experienced terrorizing us, so I don't think it's much different considering the fact that you are instructor for a extended period of time. Okay, moving on to Sasanka, you've been real quiet. Were there any specific habits or skills that you wish you had before moving abroad?
Yeah, of course, academically, I would say like PhD requires reading a lot of scientific papers, research papers. So what I would suggest for everyone listening is if you're planning to do a PhD moving abroad for masters or PhD, practice reading a lot of research papers, journal articles, um, like you don't have to read through the wallpaper, like learn to skim through papers and understanding the important parts and trying to understand what you can of the research paper. Like try to aim for at least read one paper per day. Like that's what I would suggest for you guys academically. Like it's a really important habit you should have if you are pursuing higher education. And in addition to that, I would say like you will be living alone, so you will have to learn the cooking skills. Like you will like it's a basic human skill that everyone should know, right? You should know how to make some curries for yourself. Like it would help to reduce that feelings of homesickness as well. Like apart from your family and friends, something that you would miss so much is Sri Lankan food. So at times like this, it's really important that you can cook something for yourself. So learn your basic cooking skills, and it would save a ton of money as well. As Akila mentioned, eating out is really expensive. If you can cook for yourself, meal prep at the week in the weekend, uh, you can save a ton of money. And other than that, I would say, like as I mentioned initially, the English listening skills, watch the documentaries, films. Like I used to watch all the movies for some reason with English subtitles on. But and something that I would suggest for everyone is like don't do that. Like watch movies without subtitles, and it would really help you to understand their accent and their speech. It would definitely help once you are here. And another skill I would say is like the financial stuff, the financial literacy. Like you will have to manage your finances, like the debit cards, credit cards. You will have to know how a credit card works, the bank overdrafts, and yeah, the banking system. So you should have that financial literacy, like make sure that you search those stuff and budgeting, saving, how the credit scores work. So having that kind of knowledge before you moving in, it would really help you to get the things set up. Yeah.
Okay, so in conclusion, as to what Sasanka said, not everything is sunshines and rainbows as they claim to be. There's definitely a lot that you have to learn. So since we're on the topic of struggles, I'd like to ask this question from Saadia. Saadia, how do you stay motivated during difficult times while studying abroad? It could be academic or it could be something else. What's your opinion on it?
I think it's a lot to do with staying motivated is very much to do with what Akila said earlier. I think you need to really have a day or at least a few hours off to focus on yourself and do things that you like to do. That way, say you're struggling during the week, you know that on Saturday you're going to do this certain thing, and there's that to look forward to, which could keep you motivated. But apart from that, the good thing about graduate school, which is what you do for the school students, if you're not too familiar with the term, it's what the school you join once you're done with your bachelor's. So unlike with your bachelor's in graduate school, no one tells you that there is this particular course that you have to take. All the courses that you sign up for are courses that you either really love or something that you really want to learn. And I think it's very useful before you pick your courses to spend enough time evaluating the course syllabus and the schedule to really see if this is what you like. Because I think if you are doing what you really love, it's very easy to stay motivated. But if not, it's hard to stay motivated. And then the moment you get demotivated, I think it's a sinking ship from there on. It's very difficult to catch up. Given that you're alone, there's not just studies, but a lot of other things that you have to do on your own. That's what keeps me motivated. And it's also just constantly reminding yourself why you're here and what comes at the end of all of this. You're finally going to either get a bachelor's degree or you're going to get your master's or your PhD or whatever it is. And, everybody struggles through until, they reach the destination. So constantly reminding yourself of why you're here and that, you have family back at home waiting for you, to hear good news from you. And all of those things might be minor factors, but they do really keep you motivated when things start getting a bit tough. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think I can add something to that. So one approach that has like a PhD, it's really, it can be difficult, can be challenging, and I think it should be challenging as well, because like if you are doing something very similar to our bachelor's or master's, like it means like that we haven't stepped up, like we haven't leveled up. So it's should be a challenge. There must be hardships. So at times like this, as one approach that has kind of helped me is like taking one day at a time. Like at the start, it can be kind of overwhelming, and you should not be thinking uh, like in very long term career goals, like about the publications and getting the funding and everything. Like if you start thinking about all those stuff at the beginning, it can be stressful, it can be overwhelming. But without going to that approach, what I would suggest is like take one day at a time, focus on what you can get done in one particular day, plan ahead, and if you keep taking that approach, like you will be eventually able to get things done. So that's something I would like to suggest for anyone who's struggling or who's planning to do a PhD. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, if I may add to that, so I mean, we are all doing a PhD because we really, really love what we do, right? Because if that's not the case, I wouldn't recommend a PhD for anyone. If you're doing it just because, just like a lot of people, I mean, there's this thing like in Sri Lankan education where we go from a young age, like 1 to 13, school is a must. And then the next step is university. We go on this sort of path that sort of we think is like the usual normal path. And if you're on that, like if you think after your bachelor's, grad school is your thing, like it must be done, and you don't have any interest in the field you do, but just it's the next step, the next logical step, please don't do a PhD because it becomes really hard if you are doing it just because. If you are doing a PhD, you should have the motivation, like you get motivated by the things you do and the love you have for it, because you really care about the things you do. And that's when you know that you want to do a PhD. but then again, I'm saying this after just 3 months. Let's we'll see what happens down the line.
Hopefully that mindset
Yeah,
doesn't change throughout.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
But when you start doing it, like even in the application, just don't do it just because someone told you to do that. Just think for yourself and actually think whether that's the actual next step in your life that you want to go for, which is a really important thing that we sometimes miss out on.
Yeah. So as the saying goes, love what you do and you'll never have to work a day in your life. All right. Okay. Yeah, so this next question I would send. This is also an open-ended question. Anyone can answer this. How does studying abroad shape your career goals or professional outlook? So here we are mainly discussing in comparison to like if you were in Sri Lanka versus you staying at where you are.
There's a little bit I can say about this. And I think Akila probably has the same experience. So both of us, we did our internship in Singapore. And that is when I really knew that I wanted to do a PhD, because I saw how things work, what the labs could look like, how much of support you have, and how large a PhD group is, in a sense that, you know, there are a lot of people that you can talk to and work with. So I think, I'm not saying that in Sri Lanka I would not have been exposed to this, but I feel like even if you're in a first world country, just leaving your country and seeing what is happening in the world out there could really open your eyes in terms of maybe the struggles people are going through, and you'll maybe feel good about your country and what you have for yourself. Or on the other hand, you might see what you're losing out on, and you might, you know, venture into areas that you never thought you would. And maybe this also works. So for me, my whole life I lived in Kandy. So maybe moving out of just, you know, your district and moving to another district could give you this same experience as, you know, moving abroad. But it's definitely, I think, more to do with stepping out of what you assume you're comfortable in, and trying to just see what a lot there is out there, and also see what a lot people don't have and be thankful for what you have. It's yeah, a lot that you learn when you leave home. Yeah.
All right. So since we are also approaching the last 20 minutes or so of our session, I would like to remind to our participants that we are taking Q&As. Yeah, the chat function will be enabled for you to ask the questions really soon. So if you do have any doubts, please feel free to drop them down and we can address them as we go on. Okay, moving on. Yeah, so another question that people might have is, how would you handle rejection? Because we know the sole, like if you just apply to one PhD, there's a high chance that you're not going to get it. So in that sense, but people might really want this at this, like, I want this university, I want this degree, I don't want anything else. So in that sort of situation, how should you change? Like, how should your mentality change, and how should you like embrace rejection?
Yeah. So, I mean, doing a PhD itself is all about rejections. You get rejected like by conferences, journals, and I mean, you get told no a lot of times, and even in the application process, obviously. It's, I mean, it builds with experience, I think, because sometimes there are people who have never experienced rejections, and when it happens for the first time, it's really, really hard. But you have to keep in mind that rejection is not a failure, and it's a learning point where it could be something that you have to change in yourself, something that you have to learn more, and you just have to keep trying, whatever happens. So I learned about rejection, I guess, in my third year. That was the hard lesson, where I applied to like 150 something places for internship. I just emailed them, and I only got 2 replies, which is it's a reality check in one end. But that sort of things prepare you for what's to come ahead. And getting a PhD itself doesn't solve it. Rejection is, rejection happens throughout your life. So that's definitely something that you will have to face one way or the other. And when it comes to PhD, again, like your papers get rejected, or your advisor says no to a lot of things, and it's not because they hate you, but it's something that you have to learn and just fix, how to do. Yeah, so handling rejection is just experience rejection first. It's not a bad thing. Please don't think it's a bad thing. Once you experience it, you'll know it's not a bad thing, and then you will try harder next time, and you'll keep going. And there's no workaround for it.
Okay, yes. So
Yes,
PhDs can be a truly humbling experience. Sasanka, do you want to add on to
I
that?
can add something to that, what Akila said, like about rejections. And when you're applying something, I would suggest for everyone is like, be kind of flexible. Don't be like, this is the university that I want to go. This is the program. This is the only option. Like, don't have that kind of attitude. Be flexible when you are applying. Apply to like multiple universities, multiple fields, maybe. For me, I can speak of it like my background is in molecular biology, but what I wanted to pursue was in neuroscience. So in that case, I applied to both fields, molecular biology and neuroscience, both programs. So be flexible, like you will have to write to a lot of professors, a lot of supervisors. Some of them might reply that like, I'm not recruiting the students this year or something like that, but most of the time you won't even get a reply. Like in that case, like it's really important that you stay motivated, like understand that it has been the same for everybody who's applying, like even with a very good GPA, very strong CV. It's a kind of like you rarely get even a negative reply. You rarely get even a negative reply most of the time. Like as they are also very busy people, they might not have time to reply you. So it's really important that you stay motivated and keep applying, keep trying hard, and you can reach out for the seniors, like people who are in the universities that you are applying for, and ask for their guidance, ask for their opinions as well. Like it really helped me in the application process. Like when I was applying to the University of Buffalo, like there were some professors that I was interested in, and I contacted one of the seniors there, and when I asked them about these supervisors, what he mentioned was like, don't mention them in your SOP because they aren't recruiting any students this year. Right, so you can have that kind of insights if you communicate with the seniors who are in those universities. So
All right. Okay. Thank you, Sasanka. So here I'm hearing a lot of qualities that you should have as a person besides your academic qualifications. So now I'd also like to go to Saadia. So Saadia, you're someone who has done a lot of extracurriculars during your undergraduate. You're in the swimming team, debating, you name it, she's done it. So how has that impacted you while studying for your PhD and during your undergraduates as well? So you have a 4.0 GPA as well. Would you mind sharing your secret?
I mean, okay, I didn't see this coming.
This question was not prepared beforehand.
I mean, yeah. It's a lot to do with, so for me, I work best when I have a lot of things going on. And for me, the other things that go on have to be things that are not to do with academics. I was not too good. Akila was in a lot of projects, and he's like a really good coder. And I mean, he finds joy in such things. I'm not sure because I haven't really met Sasanka, but for me, it was, swimming and other things. So I don't think it's just me. I think everybody does this, doing extras and all of it. But the most important thing, I think, is to also know, as much as you know what you want to do, know what you are not going to do and what you have to say no to. Because it's easy to get carried away. It's easy, to try to think that you need to prove yourself, get into as many sporting teams as you can, or many clubs as you can, many projects as you can. But I mean, we're all only human, and there's so much that we can do. And I don't think you should feel bad if you have to say no, whether it's to do with a project and, a professor asking you if you can undertake this project. If you can't, I think it's very smart of you if you can upfront say that you can't. That's all I did my entire undergrad, is that I didn't have a lot of time. I'm not saying that I didn't do extra projects. I did a few, and I'm pretty sure those helped too. But there were a lot of things that I said no to because I enjoyed the other extras that I was doing. And I think it's very important that you have these extras, whether it doesn't have to be a sport. It could be projects, it could be competitions, it could be comparing, it could be organizing events like this. I mean, organizing itself is a big thing that you can have on your CV. But it's very important that you do have those. But also knowing what you as a person can't do. I think that's very important, and people try to not really understand themselves, and also, what little we can do, and that little could be enough. I mean, it definitely is enough. So yeah, but the little you do, I think you need to put a lot into it and really make sure you do it to the best of your ability. Yeah, I think it's that.
Thank you, Saadia. I'm sure that was very helpful, especially considering the fact that we have interactors present here today. So most of the things that we discuss, they might feel like, oh, this is a bit too much for us, considering the fact that we are still in school. So if you're someone who is waiting, who is planning, like, I'm going to go to university and do this, this, and that, then I'm pretty sure that Saadia's advice is really helpful to you. Now we'd like to move on to a question that was asked by one of the panelists. So this is directed towards Sasanka. Is it possible to transit from one subject to another, like molecular biology to neuroscience? How did you make that change?
Yes, I would say it's definitely possible because with a bachelor's in like molecular biology, like it's a very broad subject, like you can apply it into many different fields. But the challenge, I would say, with transferring from molecular biology to neuroscience, so when you're applying for a PhD in neuroscience, there will be students who have done bachelor's in neuroscience who will be applying with you as well. So in that case, they would have a kind of a better chance at securing those neuroscience positions. But still, with your background, you would be able to make it with the skills and with the research experience you have. So, like, I can actually share my personal experience, like how I changed the fields. So this neuroscience position, like I wrote to the supervisor and he was interested. Like we exchanged several mails and we had an interview. So I had mentioned in my CV, like I have done cloning and genetic recombination. And this specific supervisor, like all he was doing was cloning work. He was designing these bioluminescent sensors to detect neurotransmitters. So it was all cloning work. So he was very interested in this cloning background. And all he was asking me in the interview was about cloning stuff, what we did and what are the procedures we used. So in that case, like even though the PhD is in neuroscience, like my background and my supervisor's interest and their research background really matched. So that's what really helped me to secure this position in neuroscience and kind of change my fields. So that's why I said when you have done a field like molecular biology, like you can apply into many fields, and if you come across a supervisor who is doing similar kind of research, yes, you can definitely change your fields and do that. But there is a challenge, as I said, with the students who have done the bachelor's in neuroscience. And as I mentioned, that's why it's important, like you stay a bit flexible, like if you are changing fields like that, do not only focus on the PhD programs in neuroscience, maybe apply for PhD in molecular biology as well, just in case. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Sasanka. We have another question. So I'll just read out the question as it is. For a student whose family is financially unstable, is it realistically possible to pursue higher education without creating any burden on the family? And if so, what support systems or pathways would you recommend for someone in that situation? For privacy reasons, I won't be mentioning the name or anything of this person, but we really appreciate the fact that you're asking these sort of questions, which goes to show that you're very much engaged with the session. Please go ahead.
I really think it is possible. I know of someone who joined us when we went to Singapore for our internship. And it's not that his family couldn't support him, but he just didn't feel like asking his parents, for this money to do an internship when he could have easily done an internship in Sri Lanka and, have got paid. So what he did was he reached out to a few councils in the university. I know the Association of Computer Engineering Students, they do support students a lot financially, especially with internships. But there's also, it's not a bond, but you need to let them know roughly how fast you can pay them back. Because these councils have this money to also run student projects and maybe certain events that the university has to organize. So it's not that they're going to give out money, but they'll definitely help you out. And one thing that I think you need to remember is that it's sad that the exchange rate is so high for us in Sri Lanka. But the good thing about it is that when you leave the country and you earn, this exchange rate is going to help you pay whatever the loan back faster. And so this person who joined us in our internship was able to pay back whatever he took as a loan the day he came back to Sri Lanka. And in an internship, they don't pay you much, but it's still possible. So my advice is to reach out to people just like you did now, because I don't think you need to be ashamed of the fact that, you aren't able to financially, your family is not able to financially support you, or you don't have enough savings to do so. The university has a lot of resources. The University of Peradeniya, not the university you're applying to. But in my case, there was also something called a relocation grant that people could apply for. And this helped me cover my flight expense and also my first month's rent. So there are such opportunities as well. It's just that you need to really do your research. Read online if you are applying to a particular university. Just go to their website, see what's available, what international students can apply for. There are so many benefits that you are entitled to that won't be listed out for you. You need to go and find these yourself. So, in my opinion, I've seen people who, if not for such support from the University of Peradeniya, or maybe even the university that they got accepted from, without their support, they probably would not have been able to make their study abroad dream come true. So I'm 100% sure that even though your family can't, accommodate this financial burden coming from you at the moment, there are many ways in which you can make it work. And paying back, I'm telling you, it's not that difficult. It's easy to.
Right. Thank you, Saadia. So next up, I'd like to merge two questions that I've got. So they're kind of similar. So I'll ask both questions. And if we could get like an answer considering both aspects, it would be really helpful. So one of the questions was, how would we know for which universities we will be able to get a scholarship? Well, that comes down to research, as Saadia mentioned. But I'm sure that there would be more that you all would like to add on to that. And also, the other question reads, if we have a BSc general degree, can we do a master's and get selected by a competitive university for a PhD? So both of these questions relate to, getting into the university and being selected, doing your research, that sort of thing.
So regarding the first question, so when you are applying, so what I would suggest is again talk with seniors who are in a USA. Like you can get a lot of insights from them, like how the program is, like whether you should consider applying for the same program, same university. Like you should definitely be in contact with the seniors, the students who are already studying there. And in the application process, another thing that I would like to suggest is to increase your chances of securing a position. Like what I did was I kind of divided my applications into several parts. Like from the top 50 universities in national rankings, I applied for like two. Then from the ranking 50 to 100, I applied for like another two or three. And between 100 and 150, another two or three. Like going to an approach like this, like it would help you to secure a position rather than just focusing on very high ranked universities in your first try. So that would really help. And the second question was about masters. Like something I can add to that is like, yes, definitely with a general degree, you can do a master's in a good field, like in a very competitive field, and in the field that you are interested in to pursue a PhD. And definitely with a master's, you can increase your chances. Yes.
All right. Thank you, Sasanka. So since we have a lot of questions incoming, I think it would be better if we can keep our questions short for around maximum of 3 minutes, because there is a lot of questions flowing in. So next up, I'd like to direct this question to Akila, since you're doing TA as well. Are there any big age difference between us and those who are doing the same PhD in a foreign country as a citizen?
I would say yes, because in Sri Lanka, I guess with all the process of like doing A levels and getting into university and then getting a bachelor's, I feel like we take a bit more time than students here. So you would definitely find your peers to be younger than you. And in my case, like I took an extra year out as well during the undergrad. So yes, that is a thing, but it doesn't really matter because nobody's going to come up to you and ask your age or anything. I don't think age is a defining factor because you would also find way older students who are doing PhDs. It's all in the things that you do. Nothing else really matters. That's the good thing about doing a PhD in America. So that like discrimination is, I mean, yeah.
All right. Thank you, Akila. All right. I think the next question is very much appropriate for Saadia. So the question reads, can we have some examples for the extra activities which will help? If we do a sport, is it necessary to have a certificate for that?
We didn't have to prove anything. We didn't have to show certificates, but I mean, doing a sport itself is a commitment, meaning you've gone for practices and all of that shows that you've been trying to balance and multitask. So I don't think there is, someone who's got colors over someone who's just gone for practices. Maybe on paper there'd be a difference, but I think just the fact that you've done extras should be enough. It really depends on who's going through your application. And also, while I'm on the topic, I got a direct message asking that I've done computer engineering and what motivated me to choose biomedical engineering. Like I said, it was my internship. My internship was in biomedical engineering. In my third year, that's when I knew I wanted to do biomedical engineering. And so my internship, that's when I knew I wanted to do it in research and not join an industry locally. So I'd say it was my research internship, just answering another question while I had
All
the
right,
flow.
thank you, Saadia. So I have another question directed to Sasanka. It reads, can you tell me about the different scopes for biology-related special programs like molecular biology, biomedical science, and microbiology? Can I do biomedical science, University of Peradeniya in Sri Lanka? Is it worth it? I feel like Sasanka, this is your field of expertise.
Yes. So biomedical degree University of Peradeniya, yes, it's definitely worth it. Like something I would mention is the quality of education that we have in Sri Lanka. It's very high. It's very standard. So more than the degree, as I mentioned, what's really important is the skills that you develop during your degree and the skills you develop in your research, right? So with a biomedical degree, biomedical engineering, biomedical sciences degree in Faculty of Science, uh, yes, it's kind of a general degree that you can apply to many different fields. With a BSc in biomedical sciences, you can again change fields if you wish, like get into different fields depending on your interest. And so it's definitely worth it. And it's like in a PhD kind of, you are like focusing, like narrowing your interest during a PhD. So what matters in a bachelor's is that you gain that you build up your skills and you build a good foundation. So that's what matters in your bachelor's, I would say.
Thank you, Sasanka. Next up, I have a question. I think for this question, it's better if we go with Akila, since you have done a lot of projects and you have been in charge of a lot of projects. So this is directly related to that. Can I know how to do a project related and how to choose a project which will help for the future career? And how can I obtain evidences for the projects that I have done?
Okay. Here's the thing. You will never know whether you are interested in something unless you work on it, right? So it's better to experiment with the things rather than just solely focusing, like doing a project just because you want to do something in that field. And when it comes to how to have, what was the second part again?
Yeah, the second part was about how can I obtain the evidences for the projects that I have done?
Okay. So usually, okay. you can try and enter yourself into certain competitions. There's like hackathons where you can showcase your project work, which would definitely give you some evidences. But of course, when it comes to computer engineering, we do a lot of course projects and throughout your undergrad, and you will have evidences in that. But also you can list them on your CV, even if you do some hobby project, and you can list them on your CV and say these are the technologies used, this is what we achieved, and so on. The main thing is, like, if you put something on the CV, you should be able to explain it, and you will only be able to explain it if you have actually done the project, right? So keep that in mind. So again, for doing projects, just keep your options open, just experiment with different types of projects. Don't limit yourself.
All right, yeah. We have another question that reads, I'll just simply read out the question as it is. I've heard that it's best to apply around 4 to 7 universities for a PhD program. Out of hundreds of universities in the USA, how do you select the few universities to apply for?
I think when you're applying, when it comes to the stage of applying, you would have sort of, I'm hoping that that'll be in your last year of your undergrad. And by that time, you will have sort of a general sense of the direction that you want to go into, the general field. So what I did was mainly, so in our final year, we would do a research project. And for that, we would refer to papers and all that. And one thing you can do is look up people who have written those papers, the authors of those papers, and where those specific papers come from, like the departments, the universities that they come from. And that is sort of a viable sort of trace that you can go through to find people and places that actually do the things, the things that you want to do. And the next step is obviously looking them up and see whether they are accepting PhD students and whether those departments are accepting PhD students in that year, and try to narrow down as much as possible. Yes, around 4 to 7. Some people go for like 10 to 15. Yeah, it all depends on your preference. But also one thing to keep in mind is, like, every application has an application fee with it. And answering one of the earlier questions, whether you can afford it. So a lot of universities also has waivers in place. So you don't have to pay the application fee all the time. So you can, that's again goes with what Saadia mentioned, do a lot of research on the different universities that allow free waivers, like waivers for application fees.
All right, thank you, Akila. Yeah, we'll move on to the next question that reads, if you couldn't achieve a class or a second upper in your undergraduate degree, is it really hard to get into a school for a PhD in a leading university, even if you do a MSc?
I don't think it's. Will it be more work? Yes. Maybe you could try doing a bit more, staying back in Sri Lanka, or you can work as a research assistant abroad in another university and try to do a few really good publications. Because a PhD, they don't want you to come here and do well in the coursework. What they want you to come here and do is learn as much as you can from the courses you're taking here, but contribute towards their research. And I don't think a low GPA defines what you are capable of in terms of research. But it's not to demotivate you, but it's going to be a bit more work than someone who has a first class that you might have to put into. But when I was in Singapore, there were a lot of really, really good PhD students whom these professors praise so much. And the reason why they even take in Sri Lankan students is because of these past PhD students. I know a person who had a GPA of 2.7, and that professor always mentions him, quotes him, and says that he's one of the best PhD students he had. And this was in a really good university in Singapore. I think he did research after his undergrad and published a few papers before he started grad school, but it shouldn't stop you. I don't think it would ever stop you from getting into a leading university.
All right, thank you, Saadia. We also have a question for Sasanka. I've heard that higher education opportunities for BSc in biomedical science are relatively low compared to molecular biology. Is that true?
I don't think it's necessarily true, but I would like to share something that I've noticed when I was applying to universities. So when I go through the university websites, the graduate schooling websites, so you would find a lot of programs in PhDs in molecular biology, in neuroscience, but in biomedical sciences, like something I have noticed is there's very a few, like definitely less PhD programs I have noticed in biomedical science in PhD programs in universities, but like I can't generalize it. Like USA should have definitely many biomedical science programs, but some like even I have noticed that, but I think it should not stop you from pursuing biomedical science if you are really interested in. Like if you are interested and if you is that what you are passionate about, I think you will definitely be able to find the chances, find a supervisor and a program.
All
Yeah.
right, thank you, Sasanka. Okay, so we have another question. So I think this can be either answered by Saadia or Akila, since I believe it's related to engineering faculty. We are not selected to our departments yet. Can you say what department or path will be better to choose, which will have a better demand after completing our degree program after 4 years? This is like a very common question that the first years often have. Go ahead.
I
I
mean,
mean, the
both
two
of
of
us are
us are
biased, right?
from yeah, we're
Yeah,
going to
that's
be
the thing.
biased. We're
Like
from the
you're asking this where we have two computer engineering students, so I don't know what sort of
but
answer
yeah.
that you might expect, but
So I don't think
let's
the point you should take away from this is that only computer engineering students are here in the US. There are so many from other departments as well, civil, chemical, electrical and electronic, and all of those departments. It just happened that the two of us are from the computer engineering department. Selecting the lecturers are going to talk to you all. There's going to be so much advice coming your way, a lot of sessions. I think you need to it's very hard in your second year. I don't think I didn't know at that time that I wanted to do biomedical engineering. The reason why I chose computer engineering is because of how diverse the courses offered seem to be.
I feel like we
That
are
means,
going towards pro computer engineering
yeah, so I
propaganda.
think I need to stop.
We basically joined for the vibe and then we stayed.
I'm the
But
people.
but like in actuality, um, okay. So one of the I think one of the key things people think about is joining whether computer or electrical. I think that's a very big question. I don't think that really matters. If you know what, like, if you want to do work, you can do in either department. You don't even have to restrict yourself to your own department. That's what I'm going to say. Like, yes, the coursework is different, but in the end, if you are doing something like projects, a lot of the projects happen inter-department and even inter-faculty. People get together. You are not going to be isolated, like restricted to your own single department if you select the department. I feel like that's a lot. That's something that a lot of the first years believe, that if you select a department, that's the only place that you're going to work at. That's not the case. That's definitely not the case. So yeah, selecting the department, I think you should really think for yourself rather than us telling you what to choose. It basically depends on your interest. I don't think the question says what the person's interests are, right?
No, that's not mentioned.
Yeah. So
Computer
yeah.
engineering, don't choose it if you don't really like it.
Yeah, I feel like I could add a little bit more into this, even though I'm not one of the panelists. So I'm a second year at engineering faculty, so I've seen firsthand of people who got into these really popular departments just for the sake of it, because everyone's going there. That's what the high GPA people do, and now they are getting really low marks and they're suffering because of it. So if it's not something that you're passionate about, and just think to yourself, is it worth doing this for the rest of your life? Do you see yourself doing this for an extended period of time? Because then again, like there were people, especially from our batch as well, who got really high GPAs, but still they went with other departments that usually people in that range don't choose. But it's not really a trend. It's more about what you prefer and what you're comfortable with and where your interests lie. All right. Speaking of computer engineering, we have another question from someone who is in computer engineering. So this person says that he really likes the field of cybersecurity and ethical hacking. Is our coursework enough to work and perform in this field? Is there a good amount of opportunities in that field in our country? Also, what can you say about the global trend for this field and higher studies chances for this field? This is about
Doesn't live in
cybersecurity.
cybersecurity, right, Akila?
There's one
Okay.
course.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the course itself, like I don't know whether they've updated it in the new course curriculum, but the one course we had, yes, it sort of touches on the very basics of cybersecurity, like it also includes cryptography and stuff. But the coursework alone won't help you. If you want to get into cybersecurity, you will have to learn a lot on your own. Well, at one point I had interest in cybersecurity and I did that. I mean, you have to learn from the internet at that point. But when it comes to higher studies, I've seen a lot of lot of trends in uh, cybersecurity research, because it's the current state of the world, right? Everything has security attached to it. So definitely a plus side. Yes, you can go go far in cybersecurity field. And in Sri Lanka, so in Sri Lanka, what we usually see are a lot of software companies, right? So each of these products have security attached to it. So yes, in that aspect, you would have a chance. You would have opportunities in Sri Lanka. But then again, there's a lot more that you can do in the sense of, so for example, yesterday I was in a talk where this person has founded an autonomous vehicle company where they automate vehicle parking in like warehouse environments. And the key thing they were talking about was security, right? Because if you're automating all these vehicles moving around, security becomes an important thing, because there's a lot of infrastructure and a lot of cost involved in those operations. So to go to that level in cybersecurity, yes, you would have to look elsewhere other than Sri Lanka. But in the current state of Sri Lanka, you can always bank on doing cybersecurity for software implementations.
All right. Thank you, Akila. Yeah, so since we are going a bit over time, I'd like to wrap it up with the questions that we have from our participants. So before we end things up, I have one last question towards that I would like to hear answers from all three panelists. Looking back, what is one piece of advice that you would give to someone who is still unsure about studying abroad and going for higher education? We'll start with Saadia.
Okay. I don't know if my question is going to answer the unsure of going abroad, but there's one advice that I would like to part with, and that is, if you know you like something and you're interested in something, speak about it with your professors. I did that very early on, and because I did this, they knew what I really liked, and whenever they came across anything medicine, biology, or biomedical engineering related, all my lecturers forwarded stuff to me. And that got me into doing a rotation with a leading surgeon in the hospital, the Peradeniya Teaching Hospital. And I also did a molecular biology course offered by the agriculture faculty of Peradeniya. All of this I didn't know of until my professors sent me flyers and whatnot. So I think the people who teach you in the university have better connections. They know more people. They know how to get things done for you. You just have to talk to them, let them know what you like. There's absolutely no point in keeping it to yourself. And I don't think there's just stopping at letting your friends know about what you are interested in is also going to do much good to you. You need to keep your professors in the loop as well. They really help a lot. And their recommendations, if they know this is what you're interested in, they know how to tune the recommendation to suit the program that you are applying for. It's all about talking, letting them know. Yeah.
Thank you, Saadia. I'd like to forward the same question to Sasanka as well. So what are some advices that you would like to give to our participants present here today?
So one piece of advice I would say, Akila mentioned it previously as well. Like he described it very nicely. Like if you are going to pursue your higher education, like it's very important you come with the right attitude, right? It should be in a field that you are really interested in, that you are in a field that you're obsessed with. Like if you try to do a PhD just for the sake of getting a PhD or that doctor title or for the salaries or anything, like it's gonna be a difficult road because you are gonna face a lot of challenges. So in that case, it's really important that you have this right kind of attitudes to face those challenges. So it's really important that you don't come with very restricted or very personal goals, but you think of the bigger picture, have broader goals in your mind, and and so that would really help you to have a like kind of a very enjoyable journey, a PhD journey. Otherwise, it would be a really challenging, and you would be looking forward just to finishing off. And I don't personally think that's the approach you should have when you are following a PhD. So that's my advice, like have the right mindset if you have the dream of following a PhD. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Sasanka. Akila, what do you have to add on to that?
Well, the one piece of advice I can give you is you will never know unless you try, right? Try out the things that you like, try out the things that seem interesting to you. Just because we are talking about these niche fields, whether it's molecular biology or what Saadia is doing, biomedical engineering, whatever, it's not that we forced ourselves to like these areas. It's something, it becomes evident, the path you like becomes evident when time goes on by the things that you do, by the things you experiment with, right? So you will never know what you like unless you do it and try it out. This advice goes for academia and life as well in general. So just be open-minded, try out things, try out different things. Don't be afraid to try out different things. And the path will become clear.
All right. Thank you, Akila. With that, I'd like to bring our today's session to an end. Thank you so much, all, Saadia, Akila, and Sasanka. So you are people who have a lot of things to do, and the fact that you even allocated little more than 1.5 hours, I'd have to say, for this alone speaks so much volume about the passion that you have for what you do, and the fact that you want to share it with the young generation as well. Thank you so much for being here. And as for the panelists as well, you all have been a really engaging crowd with all the questions that I received. And we're sorry if we can't accommodate more of your questions. But yeah, so anyways, we have dropped a feedback link in the meeting description as well as the group. So your response would be really helpful for us to organize this sort of events in the future as well. And before I end things up officially, we will be having a physical session of the physical phase of NextStep that will be happening next Saturday. So there we will be focusing on a different field, that is here we're talking more about academia. So there we'll be focusing more on industry, the qualities that you need. So we will feature speakers who are master public speaking champions, and we'll also have CEOs who will be speaking. The speaker reveals will happen really soon. So that will be a very fun physical session. So if you're staying around Kandy, we highly encourage you to join with us for that as well. With that, I'd like to formally commence the end of today's session. Thank you, panelists, and thank you, participants. Have a splendid night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having us.
Good night.
Night.